We're so excited to welcome Lecy Goranson, who played the role of Becky Conner on the sitcom. May I just say the original Becky?
OB.
Oh, the original Becky. Welcome.
Thank you.
So talk to us. You had the last episode last week and everything. You've had a week to kind of digest it. Where are you now and how are you feeling?
Well, I'm unemployed, for one. But other than that, I mean, it's just, I feel really nostalgic, very melancholy. I watched the finale with all of my crew and cast, and we just cried and held each other. And it's just, you know, I feel like we did something really important and beautiful. And there's just so many feelings. You know, people come up to me, they start crying and holding me, you know, and I'm just really kind of astounded and proud.
Because I feel like people feel like they know you. They watched you grow up on TV, and we watched your relationship. Parents didn't want you to be with the guy that you ended up getting with, and then you struggled. Your character struggled, you know. Did people ever come up to you and feel as though they knew you through that character and wanted to identify and talk about alcoholism, all of it that your character went through?
Yeah, I think there's an intimacy that happens in television because, you know, it's in your home. Mm-hmm. And particularly back in the day, because families would gather around before we all had our phones and distractions, and we all went in our separate rooms, you know, to watch content. But there used to be a time where, you know, people would gather around the fire and watch as a family. And I've found through all the many, like you said, 37 years, which is so crazy because I'm only 35, that there was like this just reflective nature of the show. And it really helped families be able to talk about difficult topics through humor. And so all the time, you'd be surprised, all the different demographics, ages, people who identified with my character, talked about relationships in the family. I was once stopped in Times Square by this, he must have been an 8-foot black guy, and he said, I identified with your character on the show because I could never talk to my father like that, and you rebelled against him on the show. And I thought, that's really profound. You know what I mean?
And John Goodman, who played your father on the show, is also a personal friend. Were there things that you would take away from John, and what's the relationship like now?
I hope I get to work with John again because he's one of those actors that you work with that brings your game up. You know, I feel like there's a trust there that's so deep and unique. And we've had this history, all of the actors, we've had this history together that is so unique in a project like that. And there's something about that trust, I think, in anything, whether it's personal relationships or colleagues. I'm sure maybe you feel this way about some of your colleagues, but it just helps you feel more secure and powerful and safe. And I think as an actor, that really allows you to just let your emotions be real.
And it becomes familial.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you are writing a book. Talk to me about that, Lecy. What's that all about?
So I wrote this children's book, If I Were a Bird, and it's about a girl's connection with birds and nature. And it's kind of like wherever she goes in different scenarios, there are birds there that she kind of goes, wow, you live here, you're native here. And I think this idea of belonging wherever you go in life, even if you're alone, that you can find that connection. And I think some people, you know, turn to religion and some people turn to different things for their spirituality. But I think there's something really pure about finding that connection with nature.
And finding the beauty in that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, last question I have for you there. Losing the main character on the show originally was named after. What was the transition period like for you? And do you feel like Conners paid homage to Roseanne?
Yeah, I mean, the finale I thought was done so beautifully that we brought Roseanne back, even though, you know, she wasn't there physically, but we honored her in a way. And I think, you know, just the storyline of her passing away from opioid addiction is so poignant in our society, but also a reason to say, like, hey, Mom, we did this for you. And I'm very proud of it. I thought it was beautifully done. And of course, that transition was really, really difficult for everybody.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.